What's going on, guys? Welcome to the David F. Haas podcast. You're listening to episode 132 with my film guy, Zach Whipple. We're getting low on guests, so I said, Zach, get in here and let's do a podcast together. But Zach and I actually kind of have an interesting story because we were looking for a film guy. And then Bree put a message out because Bree has like 30-something thousand followers on her Instagram and was like, hey, we're looking for a film guy. And then Zach, who my daughter goes to school with his daughter, said, hey, I do film. And then we had an interview and here we are.
Yeah. It was actually weird coincidence, if you want to call it that. Synchronicity.
Yeah, synchronicity.
Because Ari, my girlfriend, follows Bree on Instagram. And she's been following her since before we met you guys.
Right.
And then, she sent me that. And a few people actually sent me her story. They were like, oh, you should send your email. And I was like, oh, like my daughter's like best friends with their daughter.
Yeah. How crazy is that?
They became best friends like instantly too.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they were friends before we even knew of each other, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, that's what I figured would this be a good podcast to talk about because, just about the story and kind of like following what it is that you want to do and how it may unfold in ways that you kind of never, thought it would. So why don't you just kind of give me like a little bit of your story and how you got interested in film in the first place and, then where it kind of landed you into this point kind of thing.
Yeah. So basically I used to ride BMX. That was like my main hobby growing up since I was like 12 years old or something like that. Just loved BMX for some reason. Did it constantly every day. And like most groups of skaters or BMXers, there's always one designated filmer, someone who constantly films.
Is that the guy that's the worst at BMXing or?
Usually, yeah. Usually they're better at, better at the camera stuff than BMXing, right? So, so like I always just loved filming and stuff like that. I loved doing that part of it as well as like riding my bike. And then, I went to school for electrical because I was like, I need a career. I did that, and then I couldn't find an apprenticeship after I finished school. So I started working at a cemetery, and I was like, this isn't what I want to do either. So I just started filmmaking and stuff like that. And yeah.
And you were doing some jobs, some like odd jobs on the side, filming and just kind of really just getting your feet wet.
Yeah. It started out just as a hobby. Like when I got my new, because I used to film on like this old 20-year-old Panasonic camera that takes tapes. Like that's what we used to film BMX videos on.
Oh, okay.
And then I got like a new digital camera, a nice one. And I started taking photos and stuff like that. And then someone actually contacted me and asked me to shoot their wedding. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll shoot it. And they said they would pay me and everything. So they paid me $250 to shoot my first wedding. And then someone else, like after I did it, it was pretty fun too. I enjoyed it, and I got free food and stuff like that. Yeah. And then after the wedding, I put the pictures online, and then more people started asking me to shoot weddings and stuff like that. I have a friend in a band, and they offered to pay me to come shoot their band and stuff like that. And started getting paid doing that. And then the more stuff I put out, the more people started contacting me, and then I had like a decent amount of freelance clients at one point. And when I was working at the cemetery, it was seasonal. So the season was ending, and I told Ari, it's like I either just find another job or I'm just going to try to go full-time freelance. So like a week before Bree put that ad out, I was like, I'm just going to go full-time freelance. And then that ad came out. And it's perfect timing. Yeah,
definitely. Because I mean, doing the work that you're doing here with me on the podcast and the stuff you're doing out in Lingo Vita, we were just talking about that. It's kind of like, it's like a great training ground. If, you ever want to go and do your own thing, it's like, you're getting all of like, we're kind of figuring it out as we go along. Right. And so, I just think it's an opportunity to like learn as much. And like, we've come a long way. Like, even if you look at the podcast from like when you started to now, it's like, we got the backdrop better, the shots are looking better, the clips are getting better. And so it's all about, I think just being in the field of what it is that you want to do. Like everyone gets so wrapped up in like how to start, but it's just like, you just start. And once you start, then the jobs start coming, the opportunities start coming. You can't see any of that from outside of the field, right? You can think about it, read about it, do whatever you want as much as you possibly can. But until you step into the field, that's when the problems come up, how to solve those problems, the opportunities, and the growth and the learning. So yeah, I think that's just what you did, like, just like unconsciously, you're just like, I'm just going to start doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like theory versus practice, right?
Yeah.
Like you can read about something all you want, but until you actually start doing it, then you're not actually going to learn how to do it. Right.
Yeah, 100%. That's it. And then because of that, you saw the opportunity to take this job, and from there, yeah, we got all kinds of cool ideas that we're gonna execute on. But we're still learning. And I think one of the big points that you and I always talk about is like, especially because like there's so much opportunity in media right now. Like everybody needs social media, right? Like everybody, like doctors even need social media.
Yeah, that's insane right
now. And so, but no one wants to put the time and energy into like the filming or actually even the posting daily, and they're all looking to outsource it, right? And so then one of the things I know that will happen is that the environment will become more competitive. Like we're already seeing that in like outsourcing the India editing and all that kind of stuff. But I also see though that it's going to be like a huge industry. Like social media, content creation, like planners, whatever it is. That's like, it's going to be huge.
Yeah, there's actually a study out there. I don't know who did it, but I saw it on another podcast. They were talking about it. They're talking about how the content creator economy in 2023 was worth $250 billion. And by 2027, it's going to be worth $750 billion, or it's projected to be worth $750 billion, which is like more than some American banks, right?
Yeah, right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and so I think there's still a huge opportunity if you're into content creation to get in, because there's just so many people that need help. And then the other thing is that because it's newer, people are a little bit more forgiving with respect to what works and what doesn't. Like a lot of people don't know what works, right? And so they're more willing to say, okay, I'll spend X amount of dollars for a certain amount of time. So that is kind of the opportunity to work with somebody and like make mistakes on their dime kind of, but it's not like it's ill-intentioned. It's just like there is this figuring out phase. And I think business owners are, kind of learning that. I mean, like, I was willing to kind of give you a salary and recognizing that we're going to be doing a lot of figuring out, in this, right? And I think the one thing that you and I kind of always go talk about is that the weird thing is that everyone that gets good at content creation then wants to go and do their own thing, right? And so for me, my mindset has always been like, I want to help people maximize their potential, right? And so whether I truly believe that's working with me is where I see the most potential for them, or going out on their own, either way, I'll kind of like support them. So I'm interested to get like your take on like that kind of like dance, like that we're kind of doing right now. Like, hey, you want to do your own stuff, but you're doing my stuff, like, how do you see that all working out?
Yeah, I don't know. I think like deep down, most people want to be their own boss, right?
Yeah.
For the most part, or at least try it.
Right? I think so.
So I think that's where part of it comes from, is just having control. I'm actually listening to this audiobook called The Psychology of Money.
Oh yeah.
And they're talking about like, how money makes people happy, but they did some studies and they discovered that the ultimate factor in people's happiness is how much control they have over their life, like controlling their time and controlling what they can and can't do and things like that. But they also talk about how a lot of people underestimate the time that you have to put in to run your own business and things like that.
Yeah.
And the control that you actually have over your time when you run your own business isn't nearly as much as people think it is.
No, and I think for most young entrepreneurs, I think the thing that they have to understand is that in the beginning, you are going to work quadruple the amount of time that you were working for somebody else, right? And it's like when I opened up Treehouse, it's like I was working 12, 15-hour days. We were open from 11 a.m. till 2 a.m.
Yeah, it's your
pretty
life,
much
right?
Always there.
Yeah.
Right. And it was just a lot. And it took me 15 years to start like stepping back from that. And so where I had the freedom that I was kind of seeking. And I talk about it now that I was able to make that shift quicker at Lungo Vita. I was able to pull myself out of like the day-to-day operations quicker. So yeah, it will come, but there is going to be an element of learning everything first for yourself before you're able to to delegate it to somebody else. And now for you, like you're going to run into, let's say you wanted to start your own business, you're going to run into the same problem that I have, which is you're going to hire filmmakers, right? And they're going to want to go out and do their own thing. So whether you stay like a solopreneur and, you know, create a great business for that, the only issue is in that solopreneur, you know, is you're still in the time for money model, right?
Yeah.
The only way you get paid is if you're showing up, filming and editing and doing whatever that may be. Right?
Yeah.
And so thinking bigger picture, which we just did that great podcast with Christian there, which he had such a great view on thinking big picture, was like, how can I get out of time for money, you know, and what industry should I step into that is going to allow me to grow to my fullest potential, right? And so I think all the answers to those questions are going to be answered easily for you, you know, but that will be one of the challenges that you'll face in that, right? Is that everyone wants to do their own thing. But I do believe that we are moving more to like an economy of all entrepreneurs. Like I kind of like, we're probably a ways away from it still, but like, I kind of feel like we're going to get to this place where everyone is working for themselves and then we'll let the market dictate it. Right.
Yeah.
You know, like you're your own employee, like, you know, you make your own hours, you know? And so the companies will hire people as contractors and you can still make your own hours and do whatever you want to do on the side or whatever that may be. I kind of see that happening. And because of that, the market will dictate the prices. Right. And so and it may end up being a little bit more than people are getting paid now, but it'll probably end up being kind of similar to the same, you know? So it is interesting to kind of like watch the options for people nowadays unfold. Like before it was go to school, get a job. But now it's like, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You know, and you could always do whatever you want, but I think it wasn't as available as it is to people now. You know, like we were just talking about like your startup cost to like start, you know, like you could probably invest like 15 grand and have everything that you need to be like your own film crew.
Yeah.
Right? You know, so it's like, man, to start a business that, you know, you can probably make 100 grand a year easily, you know, for a $15,000 investment, like that's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
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 But then you're going to be stuck in time for money. So you have to think bigger. Right?
Exactly. Start delegating work. And
yeah.
But that's what Christian said about like the choosing the right industry to go in. That was a eye opener. That one stuck with me when he said he was going to get into recruiting because recruiting just has a big economy, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, even look at Bree, like she created this amazing business. She's got more demand than she can ever fill, like, which is really the be all end all for any business is the way I basically feel. It's like, if you have the ability to say, hey, I'm going to be here on this date and you sell out, you know, you've done it. That is in my mind, like what you want. Cause I'm like, look at it in the form of like coaching courses, that kind of stuff, you know? And so it's like, if I had the ability to say, hey, I'm showing up, I'm going to speak here at a 1,000-person venue and it sells out like that, it's like, you've done it, right? You could turn on your income at any time. And so Bree, you know, has done that in the tattoo game, but she's limited by her own ability to tattoo and how much time she can actually do. And it's just like, great. She has all of this demand. Could she increase her prices? 100% she could. She would probably go to like $250 an hour or something along those lines. Like that's usually what people do when their demand is higher, they increase prices.
Yeah.
But she doesn't want to do that. She wants to kind of keep it affordable for people, which is, you know, in some ways admirable. In some ways I'm like, what the hell are you doing? But she's trapped in time for money. So like that, what we missed there was like the bigger picture.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I feel like unless you can like delegate your work or unless you're like selling something that's not a service, I guess. Like, you know, you're selling a book, right? You can sell 2 million copies.
Right.
You know, that'll just keep selling whether you're putting in time or not. But things like, like tattooing or filming things is, you know, it's more tangible, I guess. Well, if you're selling books, it's tangible.
But it's more scalable.
Yeah.
A book is
exactly.
The book is scalable. Yeah. Tattooing is not.
Bree can't delegate her tattoos, you know?
Right. Yes. And so that's where I think, you know, in some ways you're in a good spot because you're doing what you love to do. I mean, I'm such a good boss. You just have freedom to do whatever you want kind of thing. Right. Right. You know, like I'm not hounding you on how many hours you're putting in or in all those lines. Say, hey, this is what I want done. And just get it done. And so you can kind of have that freedom within the framework of still being an employee, which is also another trend I think that we're seeing is that, you got to give people the freedom to work when they want to work. Like they don't have to be in the office 9 to 5, they can work at 11 o'clock at night if they want,
Yeah.
And so that gives you the freedom to go and, spend the day with your kid and then work at night kind of thing. Yeah. So I think that is also shifting.
That boosts morale too, right? Like a lot of places you work, you just don't feel respected or anything like that.
Right.
You don't want to put that work in for somebody who you don't think respects you, right?
Yeah. And the way I've always kind of done it with like free, like not freelance, but like, with employees that I'm not monitoring, they're on salary essentially, like you are. It's like, I just trust. I just trust that you're going to do what I want you to do. And if for some reason that trust is getting like openly broken, then I'll say something. But it's like, for most part, if you just put faith in people and give people the power to kind of choose, they pretty much usually get done what you need to do. Right. And so yeah, I think like, what is it like for you working under that model?
I love it personally. Yeah. Like the only downfall is like right now, Mia's not in school, right? My kid's not in school. So it's like kind of distracting being at home sometimes. And I have to like find times like when everyone's asleep to work or something like that, right?
Yes.
But it's better that way too, because I'm not just at work 9 to 5 and then.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that is the challenge of having that freedom is, we have taken away that structure, where people had before. And so now when that structure goes, it's like, you have to build it for yourself.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, you have to be disciplined.
Yeah.
Right? And that's always what I've had. Like, I've been my own boss since I was 16. Like I pretty much never, I had other jobs, but like ever since I was done university, I never worked for anybody else. Mm-hmm. Right. Which is wild. Right. I just been an entrepreneur my whole life. And so I always had that freedom, but it will bite you in the ass if you don't get the shit done. Right. And so
yeah, for sure.
It's almost like you want freedom, but then too much freedom is kind of maybe a bad thing. So you have to kind of create structure. And that's where I'm like big on like scheduling and stuff. I think it's just so important to get shit done. But let's shift gears a little bit here. And like, cause one of the things that I wouldn't mind talking about is like, because our kids are the same age and they're best friends and, they love being around each other. Those two are like such goofballs when they're together.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
So pure.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And it's just like such a natural friendship. But, you became a father, 4 years ago now. Right. And so, I did that episode on fatherhood and, some of the stuff I see that you do with Mia, like she's like already riding a bike and, like you kind of like let her make mistakes and things like that. So yeah, I don't know, like what is your take on the, your parenting style?
One of the biggest things I think for me to improve myself as a dad is like listening to podcasts and audiobooks and reading books about parenting, which like, I feel like a very small percentage of parents do, right? Like no one, because they don't have to, right? It's kind of the same thing. There's no structure or discipline for that. But I've learned so much from parenting books and podcasts and audiobooks that like it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's helped a ton.
I'm reading the Conscious Parenting map right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's been really good, like to like dive deep into like what parenting is actually all about and techniques and on how to properly parent. And so I remember once I had a teacher that said, everyone reads books about getting money, making more money, getting better at whatever that may be. But then people have kids and they don't read shit.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, like I want to make sure, especially because kids is like the work I do with people in my coaching is basically to undo everything that happened from 0 to 12. Right. So I want to make sure that, I set my daughter up, so that she has as little to undo as possible. And for me, that means one, working within myself to let go of what it is that I'm holding on to if she's creating triggers in me, but also to give her the space to feel what it is that she's feeling and not get angry at her by feeling that way or whatever that may be. And so that is kind of working, I would say. Like, I think there's still more that I need to do because there also has to be this, like, I don't want to say sternness, but
sturdiness.
It's like I don't want to ask my kid to do things 10 times, right? I want to be like, I haven't figured out what that is yet. You know, maybe you have the answer, but it's like if I ask her, "Hey, Harlow, like, come on, let's eat breakfast," and she still is playing, and I'm like, "Harlow, let's eat breakfast." Playing, and it's like the tone gets louder and louder, and so I noticed that. I knew that wasn't working because it always ended up in this huge meltdown. So then I started saying, "This is probably not good." I was like,
"It's a power struggle, right?"
It is, yeah. So then I started saying, "Harlow, come on, let's go. It's time to eat breakfast." And then the second time, if she doesn't move, then I say, "Harlow, if you don't get up and eat breakfast, I'm going to throw one of your toys in the garbage." and then if she doesn't move,
Classic.
then I just grab the toy and walk to the garbage, right? And then she loses it. And so that's also probably not working. But I'm trying to get out of this routine of like repetitive asking for the same thing. So I'm sure you've experienced that same problem and probably learned about it.
I think every parent does, right?
Of course. But there has to be that like, and I don't think it's like threatening to take a toy away, but I think it's more so of like, you say it, it gets done immediately, you know? And so whatever that shift is, I'm probably have to read some more books to figure that one out, but they just know that what you're going to, like, you're going to act on what it is that you do. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel like part of it too is like, you don't want your kid to be too compliant at the same time. Like you don't want to crush that fire that every kid has. Right.
Yeah.
And also like it's their job to push our buttons at the same time.
Of course.
That's, you know, I feel like that's their way of making us better too, is
man.
Like them testing us and pushing our buttons and seeing how far they can go. And also one of the big things so I read, The Whole Brain Child.
Okay.
Basically like, tells you how kids develop and what goes on in their brains and stuff like that, and what parts of the brains and why they do certain things and stuff like that. And they talk about how every kid craves like structure, like they want structure, and you just have to like build it for them. And you know, I've even heard like the best therapists, like everyone yells at their kids eventually, you know what I mean? Everyone's going to lose it on their kid eventually. So I also feel like parents are harder on themselves than they should be.
Yeah, I think
so. Time,
you know? Yeah, and I think, you know, we've gotten into the gentle parenting, you know, kind of phase, and you know, I see there's room for that. Like, you know, the one thing that I have to undo with clients most of the time is I have to undo the trauma that was created in the household, right? And so when a kid experiences some sort of negative emotional, you know, trauma, let's call it, the brain, the mind immediately goes to work to start protecting them from ever re-experiencing that pain. So the only thing that I am doing that I think is working well is when I notice that my daughter is in some sort of emotional distress, I give her the space, and Bree's great at this too, to be like, you can be angry, right? But there is a limit to what your anger looks like. You can't throw things, you can't hit.
Yeah.
Right. And so
it can't be external. It's got to be.
Yeah. So it's like, go sit on the step or do whatever you got to do. Process your anger, let it run its course, you know, stay with it, be in it, but we're not shoving it down. We're feeling it fully. And then when that anger, the energy of that anger is gone, then you could come and talk to us again. Right. And so I think just giving kids the space to actually feel. And I think that was the thing that probably most parents miss, is that feeling is like not encouraged, you know?
Yeah.
You know? And so it's like, we don't want to demonize the feelings. We want to just allow our kids to have the feelings, but there also has to be that limit, that structure where it's like, hey, you can feel this, but the second you hit your sister or whatever it may be, like that's when that you have to come in and like create a guideline, I guess, to how much you can feel.
Yeah.
Or how you feel, let's say, is a better word. Not how much, but how you feel, right?
Yeah. Even like my daughter knows that sometimes she can get things by crying because it's worked for her in the past, right? But sometimes, and when she does that and we try to like stop her, like, oh, don't cry, she'll cry more. But if she sometimes she'll start crying when it's just me and her, and I'll be like, cry it out. Like you're not gonna, you know, just hard no, you're not going to get whatever you're crying for. So just cry it out and process those emotions, and she will pretty much stop instantly. Like if I say something like that, right? Whereas if I try to pull her out of it and try to be like, don't cry, and she'll cry way more.
100%. And like, you guys are like pretty young parents, right? Like how old's Ari?
24.
Yeah. Like Ari's pretty young.
Yeah.
Like you're 28.
I'm 32.
What?
Yeah.
I thought you were 28.
No.
I don't even know how old that is. So you're 32. So you're in the parent age.
Yeah.
So, but it's like, but Ari was like a surprise essentially. Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, not Ari, Mia was like a surprise. So it's like, how do you feel like being like, because you are younger still, you had Mia when you were 28.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
See, I knew. So you had Mia when you were 28, and I didn't have Harlow until I was 40. Like, how fucked is that?
Yeah.
And I think you probably did the perfect age.
That's actually very it's becoming more normal now, though. I actually just read that in one of the parenting books I was reading. It's becoming a lot more normal for older dads to have kids.
Yeah. And I think it's okay, because the thing that I felt when I had Harlow was like, I felt very established. Like, I felt secure in my career and confident in my ability to provide and all of that stuff. Where when I was, in my early 20s, even mid 20s, I was not very confident in that. I didn't feel like I was in a place where I could have kids. But now looking back, I'm like, I could have kids, no problem. The thing that I think she may miss out on by having an old dad is like energy. But I personally have like a lot of energy. Like, I was wake surfing before I came here to do this podcast today. So I'm not really that worried about it. But there is this element of, maybe a little bit less energy than maybe you have. I would think, so I think that's where it's happening. But I'm interested to hear your take though. And like, you and Ari seem to have like this great relationship, and Mia's a great kid. And so it's like, kind of being thrust into like, it's not like a traditional, setup. Like, you didn't get married, have kids, and so like, how has that all been going? And like, how are you guys managing all of that?
So actually, when we had Mia, it was like the beginning of COVID, and my mom was in the hospital.
All right.
Like, she passed away 6 months after my daughter was born.
Okay.
So I feel like, as bad as this is to say, it was perfect timing for me, not for her passing away, but for my daughter being born, because I would have been an absolute wreck if Mia wasn't born when that happened. But she was born, so I didn't have a chance or an opportunity to feel bad for myself almost. Like, I just had to, I had to be happy. Yeah. I had to and enjoy my life. And also, like, it would have been a smack in the face to my mom to just squander my life.
Yeah.
Well, she didn't get to have her life anymore type thing. Right. Like, I feel lucky almost.
Yeah, man. And I think like,
I'm grateful.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. There's nothing like, I have friends that don't want to have kids, and I just tell them that I'm like, you're nuts. Yeah. It's like, cause like, I think you probably are the same, but it's like I just like look at Harlow and I'm like, just so grateful.
Yeah.
Both Harlow and Echo, like even Echo now is getting more and more personality, but it's just like, I don't think there's anything that I'm ever going to do in this life greater than like raise a kid.
Yeah. It's different than like being able to buy stuff for yourself or go on like an expensive trip when you don't have kids, right? You have all this freedom. Like, sure, it's nice, but you don't have that, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a satisfactory, I don't know the word.
Well, it's like the feeling of having a kid is the connection to unconditional love.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like
you're doing something for somebody else other than yourself. You know what I mean? It's like, and they say those are some of the happiest people too, is people who don't have a ton of money, but who actively help other people and engage in that. Right. So.
And you don't get it until you have a kid. Like I had kids later than all my friends, and all my friends were saying, oh, it's great. But I never really understood it. Right. Even after I had Harlow, like until about 8 months of having Harlow, I was still like, what the fuck did I do? I ruined my life. But then just something shifted, and then we became obsessed with our kid. Right?
Yeah.
And then now it's like, oh man, I want to change it for the world. And even though it's like, it's not easy all the time, like it's like last night, our kids went to bed at 8:00 for the first time in ever. Both of them. Like, Echo's pretty good, but Harlow just doesn't go to sleep. And Brie and I had like time alone for the first, like we watched a movie. It was a fucking terrible movie. We watched a movie though. And it was like, oh my God, like this is so amazing. But even with all that hardship, it's weird parenting, because it's like, there's a lot of difficult, but there's like a small amount of good, but that small amount of good is so powerful that it just wiped away all the difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, 100%.
Yeah. And so Yeah, I mean, I think it's awesome and even like one of the things I do wish is that I would have had kids earlier, to tell you the truth, like, because I just like probably would have had more. And, I don't know. I feel like already, like, it's like memories are harder to remember and things like that, like when you're younger, you soak it all up. Like I can remember everything that I kind of like did in my early 20s, but as you get older, it's like your mind gets full and you remember less. Like that's what Hopkins used to talk about, was like all these things like people are trying to experience, it's like you forget all of it.
Yeah.
And it's like you just think back. Like, I mean, I went to Vegas back in the day like 15 times and like couldn't tell you which trip was which. Probably because a lot of alcohol. But anyways, I think just like watching Mia, like the thing I see in Mia is like she's more like fearless than Harlow is. Like Harlow is like very like timid, right? And so, but Mia is like just like, oh, if I can ride a bike, I'll do this, And so, I mean, whatever you've done there, what do you think you did there to like give her that?
Honestly, one of the biggest things for that, like ever since she was really young too, I don't remember where I read this or anything. It might have been on like Instagram or something, but whenever she like falls down or something, I don't rush over and I'm like, oh, are you okay? Unless it's like bad. Sure. But like for the most part, like when you ask a kid if they're okay, they're going to cry more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I forget why that is, but there's like an actual scientific reason for that. But whenever she falls down or something, I'll just be like, oh, good thing you're tough. Like, tough it out.
To recontextualize.
I constantly just tell her, like, good thing you're tough.
Yes.
You can handle it. And like, I feel like just that alone has made a huge difference.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And I love that too. Cause Brie, that is one thing Brie and I do is where like just like go to Harlow right away the second she gets
It's very natural though.
Of course. Yeah. You don't want to see your kid hurt. Right. Yeah, man. Well, this has been interesting. And I think it's, I think what people need to hear of like parenting is like, you got to do your homework. Yeah. It's like, this is the most important thing that you'll ever do in your entire life. There's nothing that's more important than raising a kid. And we don't read about it. We don't do any work on it. Like we go off of our natural instincts, And
Exactly.
It's like,
I'll go to the gym and like I have coaches at the gym, right? But it's like I don't have any coaches for my family or anything like that. Yeah. Like, why is that?
Hell yeah.
Like, is jujitsu more important than my family? No.
Not even fucking close.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So no, that's good.
Spend money and whatever to go to the gym and get coached and yeah.
Yeah. We should bring a parenting coach onto the podcast.
Yeah.
Ooh, that'd be good. Yeah. I like that. Anyways, we're short on time today, but yeah, thanks for sitting in. I think it was a good conversation. And I think like parents out there need to be reminded it's like, there's so much we can do to like really help our kids succeed. And it's not like by giving them things like as money, that kind of stuff. It's more so about like doing the research, doing the work to, set them up the best, like mentally and emotionally.
Right? Yeah. All kids want is to be with their parents. That's what, like, they just want to play with their parents.
That's it, man.
It's very simple, right? Half the time they get angry or upset is because they're hungry. It's the craziest thing. It's a lot more simple than people think for the most part.
Yeah. It's not that complicated.
Just got to have patience and be sturdy, right?
Yeah, man. And just love them. Yeah. That's really all it comes down to. It can't really go too wrong if you just love on them, Yeah. So be with them, be present, and yeah, cool. Good stuff, man. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah.
Come on the podcast. We'll do a part 2.
That'd be cool.
Right on. If you like the podcast, don't forget, click that subscribe button. See you again next Sunday.